In this section, we'll work on coding the mobile touch and input controller scripts for Android and PC platforms, and also focus on designing the UI for playing the game on mobile. We go to scene 1 and place player blue in the hierarchy panel. We go to the prefab in the cartoon tonic free folder and drag the blue tonic into the scene. By selecting tonic free blue, we go to the prefab menu and choose Unpack Completely to break it out of prefab mode, then place it under player blue. We scale up this plane a bit. We move the player start points a little farther apart from each other. For the subject, we set an offset of 0.75 so that it sits exactly on the ground. Select the player blue object, add a new script to it, name it InputController, and open it in Visual Studio. This script is going to handle input controls for both Windows and Android platforms. So first, we define a field called isMobile of type bool. Then, we define mobile touch of type mobile touch, for which we'll create the script later. We define two more variables of type float for the horizontal and vertical inputs. Then, we go back to Unity and create the mobile touch class, opening it in Visual Studio. we go back to the input controller script and define the get vertical input and get horizontal input methods. Here, first we check whether the condition is mobile is true or not. If it is true, meaning we are on PC, we use the getAxis method to get the vertical input. Otherwise, on mobile, we simply return the vertical variable directly. We implement the same logic for the horizontal input as well. We copy the same method and use it for get horizontal input. Just replacing the axis name with horizontal and returning the horizontal variable instead. Go back to the mobile touch script and complete it. We don't deal with these lines and remove them. And we define a field called touch of type vector2. And likewise all position, which is used to store the previous position of the touch point. And then we also define a variable called pressed of type bool. Don't forget to implement the iPointer down handler and iPointer up handler interfaces. Then, we implement the methods defined in these interfaces by pressing Alt and Enter. We don't deal with these exceptions and remove these lines. In this method, we set the pressed variables to true, and in the onPointerUp method, we reset it and set it to false. At the same time, in the onPointerDown method, when the pressed variable becomes true, we store the position of the mouse or the finger touch in the old position variable. Now, in the update method, we first check whether the pressed value is true or not. If the condition is true, we calculate the difference between the current mouse position and the previous position and store it in the touch variable. Then, immediately on the next line, we assign the current mouse position to old position so that we can dynamically keep values in the touch variable based on the mouse movement. And if the condition is not true, the touch field is reset. Let's go back to the InputController script and continue our work. Now we'll define the getMouseX input and getMouseY input methods. Just like before, if isMobile is checked, we use mobile touch, otherwise we use the getAxis method. Next, we define the getShotButton method. This is used for shooting bullets. For the vertical and horizontal variables created for mobile, we define specific methods. We assign values to them in the different cases that exist. Now we go back to the player controller. For the getShot button method in InputController, we define the fireMobile method. Then we go back to InputController and call the fireMobile method. As you can see, we came this far and completed the code for the InputController class. Save the code and go back to Unity. Next, we want to work on the mobile UI design. So, with player blue selected, right-click and add a button to this object. For the canvas, set the UI scale mode to scale with screen size. Set the X value to 1280 and the Y value to 720. Set the match to 0.5. We don't need the text of this button. Add another empty object to the canvas, name this object left buttons container and duplicate it. Replace left with right in the duplicate. For this object, click the anchor preset and then, while holding Alt and Shift, select this option. Since these are used as containers, set the width and height to 0. Place this button under the subject. Name the subject forward button. Set the width and height to 126. Assign this sprite to the source image. Set the X and Y values to 0. Duplicate this button. Replace forward with backward and assign this sprite to the source image. Duplicate one of these buttons for the right container and set it as a child of the subject. Replace backward with right and duplicate it. Rename the duplicate from right button to left button. Set the X and Y positions to 0 for both objects. Select the right button container object and right-click to add another button. We don't need the text of this button, so delete it. Rename the button to Shut button. Assign this sprite to the source image. Set the width to 126 and the height to 251. Place these buttons in the appropriate position. Set the forward button position to X 90 and Y 200. Set the backward button position to X 90 and Y 60. Select both and move them up a bit. For the forward button, 210 works fine. For the backward button, use 84. 78.7 can also work well. Assign the right sprite to this button. Assign the left sprite to this button. Set the right button position to X minus 90 and Y 210. Set the left button position to X minus 222 and Y 210. Place this button at X minus 157 and Y 147.5. Assign the red shut button sprite. Next, select UI image for the touch panel and place it as the first child of the canvas. Click on the anchor preset and select this option. Set the alpha value of the color to 0. For the right button, set the right value in raycast padding to -30. For the left button, set the left value in raycast padding to -30. Actually, setting both to -40 might be even better for easier clicking. Similarly, set the raycast padding for these two buttons and choose -40 for left and right. Next, we need to use the scripts and methods written for each of these objects. First, select the touch panel and attach the mobile touch script to this object. Next, attach the InputController script to player blue and assign the touch panel object to the mobile touch field. Now, for all buttons in the canvas, assign the methods defined in InputController. First, select the forward button and add the event trigger components. Then, register the pointer down and pointer up event in this component. Do the same for the remaining buttons. For this button, the unglitch event has already been registered. Now, select the forward button and subscribe to the pointer up and pointer down events, and assign the corresponding method for each event. Do the same for the remaining buttons. For the shot button, first subscribe to the unchallenged event and then assign the getShot button method. As you can see, this method calls the fire button method. Then go back to Unity. Select the player blue object, click Override in the inspector, and choose Apply All to apply all changes to the prefab. Don't forget to place the event system object under the canvas. Select the player and add the player controller script to it. Click Override again and choose Apply All. Rename the canvas to Local Canvas, then click Override once more and choose Apply All. Click the play button and run the game once. If you notice, at the start of the game we get an error. Go to the Console tab, expand the error, and navigate to the line where it occurred. If you notice, at line 16 there is no player observer component to assign to the player observer accessor, which causes the exception. So, we temporarily comment out this line and go back to Unity to test again. In this run, there are no issues and pressing all the buttons doesn't cause any exceptions. Once again, override the Player Blue prefab. Go to the Resources folder and add the remaining players to the scene. For these 2 times as well, first select Unpack completely from the prefab just like before. Next, duplicate the local canvas twice and place these objects under each of the tanks. Now select the 2 players and attach the InputController script to them. Rename the local canvas for each of them. Select the green player and assign the touch panel object to the mobile touch field. Just like Player Blue, for all previously subscribed events, extract and assign the corresponding methods for the respective player object. For the subject, just like Player Blue, set the Y position offset to 0.75. For Player Red, follow the exact same steps as for Player Green and Player Blue. Just like you can see here. For this one, also set the Y offset to 0.75 so the tank sits perfectly on the ground. Finally, for each player, click the Override button in the inspector and choose Apply All to apply the changes to each prefab in the Resources folder.